Alright, so this starts off with us seeing Takako finally in action, and she's really not disappointing. And this is picking up from the end of the previous chapter where Okkotsu had blown positive cursed energy into the cursed spirit Kurorushi's mouth, making him explode. And once he was out of the picture, Takako came down and started talking to Okkotsu, saying like, oh, so you can use reverse curse technique? And that's leading us to where we are now, with her doing some kind of ambiguous attack to Okkotsu that leaves a crater in the ground, and he's even confused as to what's going on here because he's like, what caused that destruction? Then they go into an exchange of strikes, and we see more of Takako's curse technique where she's like pulling the space or almost reality around them, and it causes Okkotsu's arm to like distort. Then after striking him again, they go to their respective corners, and we see that Okkotsu's arm is fine because he's like, my arm is back to normal, it doesn't even hurt. And he says her curse technique probably controls space, but it actually can't crush her opponent. So maybe this kind of works the way that the reality stone worked in Infinity War, at least when Thanos was using it on the Collector's planet. Like, he disassembled the Guardians, but then once he was gone, they were kind of like back to normal. So maybe her ability more so superficially affects things, but doesn't necessarily have a tangible effect on reality. But that leads back to the beginning of the chapter where she does seem to have some kind of tangible effect on reality with the initial attack that she gave to Okkotsu. But like I said, it confuses him, and it at least confuses me. I'm sure all of you in the comments already know everything that's going on. But going further, she says, my curse technique treats the sky as a surface. And Okkotsu's like, she's disclosing her curse technique. This is of course like one of the standard binding vows that we've seen since the beginning of the series. If you reveal to your opponent how your curse technique works, you get like a cursed energy boost. And this also goes back to the original explanation that we got for her curse technique, where the narration just said she can control the sky. But then going further, Okkotsu's like, sky, so space becomes a surface. Both her attacks blew past my guard and sent me flying. If that involves surfaces, there must be some trick. So this is probably like a more nuanced application of her ability. And like I said, maybe it inherently doesn't have a tangible effect on reality, but she can use it in a certain way that makes it so that it can affect reality, although it technically isn't. So then Okkotsu decides to move away from a physical battle and tries to go more so into a talk no jutsu type one, where he's basically saying like, I can understand a weak person trying to do what you're doing, but you're strong. You could just get points from anyone. So Okkotsu kind of talked about this with Kurorushi, although it was more so just Kurorushi asking Okkotsu why he's killing them, being like him and the roaches. And Okkotsu was just like, well, why are you killing? But I'm sure he's doing this more so because Takako is like a human. We didn't see him have any kind of interaction with Druve, so maybe he did try to talk to him and that's what led to him taking him out. But Takako's saying, for us, we've come back from the underworld. The culling game is the first step to a second life. So this goes back to what I was talking about like many chapters ago, with this probably gives us more insight into what is going on with Sukuna. Like, I'm pretty sure this is why Sukuna did what he did and why Kenjaku made Yuji to become a vessel for him. Now, I don't know if Kenjaku did that for all of them, like he gave birth to all of the vessels for all of these 1,000-year-old sorcerers, because I guess we're under the assumption here that Takako, Ryu, and the others are kind of going through the same thing that Sukuna did. They made this deal with Kenjaku back in the day when possibly they knew that they were going to die or something like that, and Kenjaku was like, hey, I'll make you guys into cursed objects, and then in like 1,000 years or whatever, I'll have vessels ready for you. They'll consume your cursed object, and then you'll become them, thus being resurrected, but you'll be a part of this culling game. I guess that was more incentive for them, because a common theme that these old sorcerers seem to have is that they're really interested in testing themselves and fighting strong opponents. But aside from that, it also goes into the underlying theme here of them having regrets, or else they wouldn't have accepted Kenjaku's invitation. And I'm pretty sure that falls into Sukuna, Reggie, and I guess Ryu possibly as well, and the rest that we're going to be introduced to. But anyway, Okkotsu's like, how can you be so desperate for your own sake? And then Takako says, are you one of the Fujiwara? What would one of your blood know about it? So we talked about this in the spoilers early in the week, and I was confused at least as to what was going on here, because I don't think we've ever had the Fujiwara name dropped in the series yet, or at least I'm not really aware of any characters who have that name. But an ancestor that we do know that is tied to Okkotsu is Michizane Sugiwara. Gojo says that he and Okkotsu have him as a common relative. So that made me, and I'm assuming many others, think that was she actually talking about Michizane Sugiwara, but apparently no, it's just this Fujiwara individual or just this Fujiwara family. And then we see like a panel of who I'm assuming is Fujiwara himself. Now this is for sure going to come back into play later on, and it's possible that maybe this individual or his clan or team or family, whatever, possibly led to the sorcerers competing in the Culling game to be forced to take on Kenjaku's invitation. Because in Sukuna's like actual backstory, like the mythology that he is based off of, he was eventually defeated. So it's possible that maybe the Fujiwaras here are tied to that maybe. I don't know, I'm just taking guesses, but again, you guys already know the answer, so just look at the comments. But anyway, Ryu steps in and his curse technique is revealed, or at least kind of, and he shoots a granite blast out of his pomp. And I guess this goes back to the original exposition that we got on him with he has the highest cursed energy output of all the players. But this guy is like a Vasto Lord from Bleach or something, because he has maybe the most impressive display of just raw cursed energy output that we've seen so far. But then after his initial attack, Okkotsu reminds us that Rika is protecting the people at the stadium. Talked about this many times, but this is just a way to raise the stakes for Okkotsu, because if he was able to just freely fight against them with the assistance of Rika, he would probably just dominate them, I guess. Because as we see, just him by himself is already extremely capable. I mean, he's been running the gauntlet so far, and he still seems to be the odds-on favorite to win, even if he is down against two opponents at once, which he's willingly taking on here. So then he just beelines towards Ryu, who fires these like homing cursed energy missile blast things at him. But Okkotsu wisely dips inside the hole that was made in the bridge, made from Rika destroying Kurorushi's cockroach swarm, and he uses that to close the distance with Ryu and winds up coming behind him. And this is smart, of course, because if Ryu was able to keep the distance that he was, he could just keep firing off his burst energy blasts, which seems to be like the main component of his game. So bringing it close quarters seemingly gives more advantage to Okkotsu, but it's probably not going to be that easy because Ryu is already able to block his initial attack. And that brings us to the end of the chapter where Okkotsu's like, let's bring this in close, and Ryu says, will that satisfy the hunger, Okkotsu? And I guess this is alluding more to the possible darkness that is within Okkotsu, which may be one of the reasons why Rika is even still a thing. Let me know what you think about this chapter, and if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.